And let's speak now to mathematics specialist from the Department of Education, Tebogo Mokwene. Very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you, ma'am, and good evening to all your listeners at home.
To your mind, what needs to be done to improve the maths marks in this country and to just generally make mathematics attractive?
It starts with the teaching, the pedagogy, the methodology thereof. You know, as a mathematician, I subscribe to the notion that says currently we are teaching the Generation Z. So we cannot teach them the way we were taught previously. So we must, to some extent, change the way we were taught. So as an excelling teacher and well recognized by the Minister of Higher Education, I use art, I use Amapiano because our learners are more into this Amapiano vibe and all of that. So I would take a song that they love at home, at whatever clubs or whatever street they do, and then use it to advance my purpose of making sure that they love mathematics. So we are teaching the Generation Z. We must look at the way we are teaching them.
It's a very interesting approach, and I'm glad to hear you say that, because for a lot of pupils, at least certainly during my era at school, there was an understanding that if you can't grasp maths, it's just simply because you don't get it, and not, as you say, the notion that the pedagogical approach could probably be the problem. So just to give us a simple example of how you would use a song and to teach algebra principles to help somebody who maybe even thought that they weren't interested in maths to grasp it.
That's a very good point that you are raising, madam. Like, for instance, I've got a model, a mathematics model, which my learners named it after me. It is the Jobe rule. The Jobe rule, it helps learners to understand trigonometry, in particular core ratios. Like, for instance, if our learners would know that sine of 90 minus x will tend to be cos x, and cos of 90 minus x will tend to be sine. So we'll chant a song in the classroom to say, how 190 can Charlie be 2? How 190 can Charlie be 2? So which simply means whenever they see cos 90, they must know that it will change the meaning. And this also stands out very, very well because it addresses trigonometry, which is 50 marks of their math paper 2. So this is very, very important for all of them. So I use that song to say, how 190 can Charlie be? So to say, when you see 90, change the name.
It's interesting to hear you say that, and I'm just curious about what helped you think that you should connect to your pupils this way. I'm sure some of your learners, when they go back home, they tell their parents, they probably say that this teacher of yours is just fooling around, he's not teaching you the right thing, the right way. Is it because the generation gap is smaller, but because you realize that students were struggling because they're not connecting with those who are teaching them?
Yes, that is certainly true. When I started, because before I became a mathematics specialist, I started teaching at Mabato High School. That is where everything started. Because as a teacher and as a passionate maths teacher, I did a feasibility study to say, is this traditional way of teaching these learners working? Then the answer is no. Then I had to dig deep and check to say the world is changing, our learners are changing, so we need to dig deep and see if there is something that can be used to advance mathematics. So I saw that our learners love technology, one, our learners love music. So why not involve music that they love? So whenever they see me singing this, they get so interested in what I'm talking about, and they also get so interested in coming to my class. I've received many reviews from my former learners. Some are at the universities, even parents keep on calling me for extra teaching. So really good, this has really assisted our learners worldwide.
This way of thinking, is it something that you can teach those around you who will come after you? Because there are those who probably will start thinking very seriously about taking up STEM subjects because they've found somebody who can give them the confidence that they can grasp it. I mean, as I say, some of us grew up in an era where you were naturally gifted at certain things, where, as you're saying, people can learn it if only the approach changes.
That is true, madam. And I also subscribe to the notion that says all our learners can do mathematics. And I also want to thank the minister, Mama Enji Mutsekga. She sent us to China to go and even expand our knowledge in mathematics. So I was one of the participants who went to China and really dig deep on this new way of teaching mathematics as it were. So definitely, and I also, if you look at the National Development Plan, it says by 2030, most of our learners, if not all of them in South Africa, they must do mathematics. So the STEM stands out to increase participation in mathematics as well as the pass rate. And I also like what the Minister of Higher Education said, say they are going to start funding careers that are economically relevant, and you cited mathematics, sciences, and commercial. So is to make sure that one, we increase participation in mathematics. Two, we make sure that our learners get quality paths.
I'm just curious about what you learned and gleaned from your exposure to the way they do maths in China. Because again, going back to stereotypes, we've been told that Asian races are much more adept at learning maths. Was it because you found that the way that they taught is different and they're able to see many more students pass and not just to do it competently, but actually understand and love maths?
Yes, really there's still much to be done in as far as mathematics in South Africa is concerned. But we, as a team from South Africa, we were able to match their standard, because when we arrived, we wrote pre-tests and we really managed to pass, because remember, mathematics is a universal language. So we managed to pass, though, as I say, there's still room for improvement in as far as technology is concerned, because in China, they infuse technology in the main in terms of their teaching of mathematics, which as South Africa, that is where we are getting, but slowly but slowly we are getting there. But in terms of the content, in terms of the pedagogy, we match them so by. But in terms of technology, they stand out so much.
It's such a pity that, again, we couldn't continue this conversation. And I apologize to our viewers again for the poor quality of sound, that some words were dipping while you're speaking. But what a pleasure to speak to you, and I hope that you're inspiring a lot of other learners out there, and certainly parents. That there is Tebogo Mokwene.